Hey guys, Dark Prometheus here, and I wanted to make a review here on, or at least an early review, for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. This game's gotten a lot of hate recently, and I've been really enjoying it because I've changed the game into something that I like to play. And before, a lot of people have say, well, you just like Ubisoft games, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I have played a lot of Ubisoft games, but there are a lot of Ubisoft games I don't like. What the Assassin's Creed just kind of turned into, I don't like. I didn't really enjoy Wildlands in a way, but I played it, and it was fun with friends, but the game just wasn't for me. I felt it was very easy, and it just wasn't my taste. This game, though, I've been able to make it very particular to what I like to play. I like to play with minimal HUD. You see, the only HUD I really have up is my ammo, mainly because of the fact that I always forget what my secondary or my throwing weapon is, and it bugs me that I always forget, and so that's the only thing I have on it. But I tend to play these games in ways that, well, that aren't really intended. And here is just an example of a lot of people say, well, the AI is stupid. You're not. This is a way the game was probably not intended to be played. You get on a roof of an area and then you snipe. But still being up in this area and sniping, I am still detected in that, playing on extreme, limited HUD, things like that. So, in a way, a lot of these games are in a niche that I don't really play a lot. What I play a lot is like Escape from Tarkov, but I do venture over into like Madden. But I like to play a lot of different games. So as for the gameplay itself, the gameplay is, well, the same. If you enjoy this type of gameplay and try to maintain stealth, and then when things hit the fan, you kind of go off and will try to be Rambo-like. This is a game that is going to be generally for you if you liked Wildlands in that manner, other than the fact that you don't have any companions. Not having companions fits the story, however, it would be fun to have companions. So that's probably one of the reasons why they're bringing the companions in later, because it was never intended to be there. At least that's what my opinion is in that fact, since, well, one team member, little spoiler alert here in the beginning of the game, one team member is killed, another one you find is injured, and the other one you're trying to find is somewhere on the island. So really your team from Wildlands doesn't really exist in any functional capacity. And I think they wanted that because they wanted you to feel alone out here. But they also wanted to make an experience that if you wanted to play with friends, well, you can have 4 of your friends play as well. Because who doesn't want to play co-op if they have 4 friends? Me, well, friends kind of make story games like this chaotic, so, well, I'm playing it solo from there, so I wished I had the companions itself, so I can have a bit more flexibility in taking down certain areas, but it doesn't bother me in the long run. So the gameplay is really just the same. It's the same thing as Wildlands. They allowed it to be a lot more customizable, but they've also changed the gameplay where it doesn't matter if you hit someone in the head, no matter what weapon you have, they will go down. Sure, the wolves, you might have to 2-tap, there's certain mechanics, things like that, but that just goes with the mechanics just to make certain enemies not feel the same. The real bullet sponges in these games are the drones. In these, the emplacements with sniper rifles are pretty easy to take down if you can actually aim accurately, unlike me here. But you're able to bring it down in just a couple of shots and you're fine. Now, the actual vehicles, things like that, that's where this game gets tedious and where gear score actually matters from there. Gear score really has no pertinent purpose in the game other than the challenge areas against behemoth tanks and drones. Other than that, gear score is really irrelevant. Many people don't like the fact that it's Division-like. Me, I personally got bored with Division. I like playing Division with friends, but it just wasn't a game for me to play solo. So I mean, I finished Division, it was cool, I played it once, didn't grind through it, it was whatever, blah blah, so on and so forth. So I mean, from there, in how it's implemented here is all about user customization. So if I don't want to worry about gear score, and I want to use the same weapons, I want to use an M4 the entire playthrough, we'll find the blueprint and keep on recrafting the game, which may seem a little tedious, but you can craft any bivouac site, which is essentially how you fast travel around the world. So literally you can recraft it to your gear specification anyway, making just, you need the blueprint, that's all. So you gotta find the blueprint and do it. The only thing that gear score really does is for your defensive things, but really it just says, okay, here's a common item, it doesn't have any ability. Here is a uncommon item, and say you have, well, this one does extra damage against drones. Really, it's just passive abilities is what the gear score is. You're not really grinding anything like Division. So it does have some aspects of that, but really it's about how you want to play the game. As for the UI, things like that, personally, I like a clean UI like this as much as possible. I felt the UI was relatively simple, relatively easy to maneuver around, but I also don't play it with radar and things like that. So navigation can be an issue. Sometimes I have to bring up my map more, try to figure out where I am, but also my quests are in the exploration mode, which is my intel pieces give me clues. I'm not going to be able to know exactly where a mission is until I get close to it and I say, okay, this is the mission area. So, I mean, I like playing the game like that, but you also have, for more casual players, which is kind of what this game is tailored to. This game is really tailored to those casual players that want to bring up and play a game like this. It's not really for niche genre like the old Island Thunder, the old Ghost Recons, which I absolutely love, and I own all of them. I've played them through multiple times. The old Splinter Cell games where you actually couldn't move and shoot at the same time. I love those games. So this is coming from a person that, yeah, I would love the old genre games, but really casual gamers have taken over the scene in this, and this is really a casual gamer's game. It isn't really one of those games that's a niche game like, say, Escape from Tarkov or Freeman's another big one. So this isn't a niche game. This is a game that has some survival elements, but it's really a casual's game. So going with some of that kind of goes into the hate that this game has got, and that's really the microtransaction system. Personally, my personal opinion, I don't see any issues with it because it is tailored in such a way that if you want to hurry up your experience and really push forward and get the XP so you don't really have to grind the game, then it's there. It's there as an option. It's not really needed. This isn't like the borderline issue that either Origins or Odyssey had, where you felt like you couldn't actually complete the game unless you bought it, in which you would have to grind the side quests. In this, you can one headshot pretty much everyone. Even the bosses can be easily taken down with a headshot if you use a sniper rifle. No big deal. The last boss, which I've played through with a friend, that I kind of was helping him through the end and kind of just not paying attention to the story, but he was the final boss. Even he wasn't really spongy, at that. There was a mechanic with it that you had to take down some drones around him before you can actually hurt him. But once the drones were down, it was pretty much a 3-shot. So this game isn't particularly suited in a way to make it very tedious with bosses, really. Really, you have the behemoths, which are like challenge areas, challenge tanks, where they're kind of bullet sponges, but in a way, they're challenge areas. You can sneak by them, grab the blueprints, run away, whatever. They're really there if you want to fight them. So really, the microtransaction system in the game is generally the same thing they put in Wildlands about a year after the game was put out. And the same thing that was in Odyssey, and the same thing that was in Origin, and the same thing that I believe was in the Assassin's Creed after that. I mean, this is stuff that was already seen before. So the biggest change they made is they got multiplayer in this game. Anything you get in single player, say the gun. Okay, cool, I like to use an M4. Well, everyone's damage is the same. There is no advantage to anyone other than the type of weapon you're using and the caliber you're using. So obviously you use a 7.62 weapon, you're going to take them down. If you use a 338 sniper, you're going to take them down faster. So there's not, even the abilities in the multiplayer really have been nerfed to a way that it really doesn't matter. You can't use the stealth mechanic of, you can use the one where you can get in tall grass, things like that. You can still be seen, but you're not hidden completely, not even from drones. And you can't actually use the prone dig-in where you cover your face in mud, whatever, that mechanic. That's not usable in multiplayer at all. So they've made it in a way where it doesn't matter what you have. Okay, cool, I want a skin, or I want this particular camouflage. Okay, you might have to buy it. That's the only thing that kind of sucks with me. I want a particular camouflage, I want to buy it. One thing I would say with it that they should have thought about would be the lieutenants for John Barenthal's character. Lieutenants there, you get their weapons, but you can't get their uniforms, which I get, but it would be nice to be able to get those people's items completely, or at least have a choice to say, do you want the item or do you want the uniform, and then say, hey, this choice will be something that you can't take back or whatever. Okay, cool. Or just have, you can't get a period. You pick one or the other and that's it. So, in a way, that's the only thing that I didn't like. But the camouflage really doesn't have any bearing. If I'm wearing black, and it's the middle of the day, and I'm in the snow, and I go prone, it really doesn't have a bearing. It really only has a bearing if you're playing a multiplayer, which you have if you have issues seeing different colors or same color in an area, like sometimes I do in the snow multiplayer map, or someone's wearing white. Well, yeah, I might have trouble seeing that, but at the end of the day, the basic colors and the camouflage, things like that, for those levels are there. And so it's just having, oh, do I want Russian camouflage, or do I want Canadian camouflage, or do I want US camouflage? So it's more of the same thing. It depends what kind of flavor of camouflage you want from a different country or this or that. So I'm fine with that. Now the survival mechanics in this game. You do have some slight survival mechanics, and I wish there was more, but I understand why there's not. This game is really for casual players and not those niche, as we see kind of the idea of the gear right there in the menu, but this game is for casuals. There's a lot of devoted fans out there of Ghost Recon. I in particular wouldn't see myself as one. I'd say after Advanced Warfare, I think that was the one where I started just saying to the franchise in it. And that's mainly because I didn't really like the drone aspect in this. And so I understand why it's in there, but to me personally, I don't like the drone aspect in these type of games, particularly stealth games. I can just drone an area like I did beforehand, look where everyone's at. Okay, here's my 2 snipers, here's this, and I really don't have to expose myself at all. I don't ever have to put myself in danger, and that's something I liked from the previous Ghost Recons, where if I'm going through, well, the only reason to detect someone is really you. There is no external drone. And so that's really where you get in a grasp that this is a game for the casual player. This is a game that's not going to go in those niche categories. It's not going to be for that guy or that girl, whatever, that played those old Ghost Recon games. And I get that, because more gamers are on console today instead of PC. You get a lot of games like that on PC. So, yeah. The one thing that was kind of weird in it is I didn't like, and this is one thing they'll have to do to patch some of the quality of life changes, is I got annoyed with the weapons having to change them to the same color, the same attachments. Oh, I want this scope instead of that scope, and some of how the upgrade system works. I spend parts to upgrade the gun. I particularly like the RPG elements in this because it allows me to change kind of how my game is played depending on what class. And really it was things that didn't really affect the game massively, but it helped me in a way of like the 75% sliding. Okay, cool. Like by the time I'm at the area, I'm in a lot of mountainous terrain. I want to be able to slide, making my traverse a little bit easier. Although if I'm still stupid in that and I go over some terrain that's not particularly easy, well, I could still hurt myself in that. So it makes sense. The exploration mode in this game, with that, the terrain, that sort of thing, helps you along to know where you have to go, which is why I like it as well. And that fact, oh hey, there's 3 pictures. Oh, in this 3 pictures, you gotta find these locations, and one of them is in this area and the building looks like this. Or this one is at night, and it's the only one that has blue lights. Okay, cool, I have to investigate that. I like those type of games that doesn't tell me, or at least I have the option to change it where it doesn't tell me direct. Some people may not like that and say, I want something direct. Well, that's in there too. This game has more functioned in a way of you can customize your experience. And that's what I think the identity is. A lot of people, I think, have gotten it confused of this game doesn't know what it wants to be. Well, it wants to be a customizable experience in a way that is different from Wildlands. It doesn't want it to be a carbon copy of Wildlands, but it wants to be a more customizable experience. And by being more customizable, it loses some of those people that said, oh, I want it exactly like Wildlands, I just want the AI smarter. So it comes along with the AI and how the weapons work. Well, the AI is not particularly smart in this game. However, they're not particularly smart when you're undetected. When it comes to silenced weapons, they tend to not hear them sometimes. In particular here, we're about 60 feet from the target. We hit a sniper rifle. He still doesn't know where we are. He tries to hide, and I'm rifling off 30-40 rounds, and there's an enemy about 30 meters to my right below the hill. So yes, this it's not realistic. I get it. A silenced weapon, particularly an M4 and M16, is about 80 decibels, so a car door ish, slam the car door, so you would hear that. Even that. even particularly the nearest enemy is very close. Now you see that they are alerted, and that's mostly because the robots. The drones and the robots kind of help alert the humans to things like this, and it's not really a substitute for it, but it works. I don't think it particularly works well, in my opinion, but I understand that this is supposed to be a more high-tech atmosphere, high-tech island, all based around drones. Today's society, really in military conflicts, is all about drones, surveillance, things like that, and being able to detect people without using actual people. But in a way, like here, we're still about 30 meters, and they still don't detect me. I miss a shot. Now here's where it's weird. These guys are shotgunners, but they know exactly where I am. And so that's where the key when it comes to alert and stealth kind of don't mix very well. The shotgunners kind of know the area you're at, but they don't really shoot at you. So that was always a confusion in this game. The AI is... So here's the thing about AI. Particularly in playing a lot of games that have a lot of varied AIs. In a lot of hardcore niche games, like Escape from Tarkov, which is a looter shooter but very hardcore in a way that if you die you lose everything. And the AI in that game is particularly brutal. They can wallbang you, which is pretty much going up against the wall and shooting through the wall. They can detect you through walls. If you happen to fire at them, then reposition, they literally know where you are to an extent, even if you're on the other side of the wall, and is pretty much ready to drop you. So that AI is not particularly smart, but it's difficult and brutal. The thing is, in this, they didn't want something that was particularly brutal for the sake of they can see you everywhere, which I felt Wildlands that was the case. If I was with a bunch of guys, in particular playing multiplayer, well, okay, we're on a hill, we're looking down, we're sniping people left and right. Okay, they're alerted, they automatically know where you are in an instant, and they engage you. That's a phase of Wildlands that got me completely irked, and I didn't really experience it in this game. This game, it was more so there, where I am near them, about 20-30 yards, out in the open. I'm not stealthed in any capacity. I engage the first one, I engage the second one, the third one turns to me, engages me, and my stealth is pretty much compromised from there completely. I particularly like, though, in playing this, in the extreme, that you're just as fragile as the enemy is in this. Barring some of the bosses later on and how difficult the wolves can be in knowing wherever you are, they tend to just run right to you to an extent early game, which I found that was very strange and odd. But I particularly felt that the AI was a lot better than Wildlands. Definitely not perfect. I found some areas where it was weird, particularly in heavies, where they would do weird things. The snipers were great. The sentinels, which are the basic enemies, were iffy. The shotgun sentinels were iffy. The officers were. And the wolves were kind of just really overly aggressive, which they're kind of your counterparts on the other side. So in a way, it made it a lot easier, but the heavies were probably the dumbest enemies in this game, to where you had to be straight up exposed. Like there, I shot him once, still in the same area, and then shot him again, but he never engages me. I particularly believe the AI is not great in either game, but this one is a bit better. So going into really what I would say about this game, it's not perfect by any means. The game is more made for casual players than niche players. And if I had to give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably give it 7 at this point so far. I haven't completed the story. The story so far seems a little bit better than Wildlands, but not much. Wildlands had kind of like the authentic feel of Bolivia, I think it was. And so you had an authentic storyline to kind of go with it. But ultimately the storyline was just really boring because you were just, okay, I need to mark these people off to get to the next head guy. Okay, how many lieutenants do I gotta mark off? Okay, boom. In this, you kind of have a slight story, and you eventually get to knocking off the lieutenants of the main guy so you can take him down. But it's not really the focus. The game is really just trying to figure out what's going on. You have no real idea when it comes to story of what is even here. And so in that rate, it's not like Wildlands where, okay, here's the cartel leader, okay, I need to find out who the lieutenants are, and we have an idea who the lieutenants are. Okay, how do we get to the lieutenants? Okay, these people are the ones you have to find in the game to get to lieutenants. Okay, cool. When I take down the lieutenants, I could take down the main cartel guy, but you have an idea of what you're going the entire game. This one you don't. This one you kind of show up and you have a bunch of questions. Who sank this military cargo ship? Who took down your planes? Who's really running the island? Okay, you have the CEO that's supposed to be running the island, but he's in hiding. So who's actually the one running the company? So you have all of these questions that you have no idea. And you have no, okay, what is this island supposed to do? Why are there drones? Who came up with the idea with drones? Okay, how did Sentinel run the island now? If the Sentinel CEO doesn't run the island, who actually runs the island? Okay, it's the wolves, which you really find out in the first 10 minutes of the game. Okay, cool. Who are the wolves? Who are they led by? Okay, I know who they're led by, but why? Who are these? Well, the storyline, I haven't gotten too far in it, but the story really has a weird authenticity. Wow, I can't say that word sometimes. But it's not rooted in the real world. This is more of a near future, a postmodern feel. So the storyline itself is not as realistic to me right now. But my issues with Wildland was always not just the AI, but the fact that the AI kind of knew where you were pretty much at all times. And so the instant you broke any type of stealth, which most of the time was unattainable to do, like completely, they instantly all rushed you, and there's no real tactics to it, which sometimes you can find some terrain and break the AI in this game. I did that in that building. That is one thing where a player that is textbook finding a situation, finding a location, and breaking the AI. Because they don't know how to respond to that. They know how to respond to you when you're on flat ground, in terrain, attacking a base, things like that. They do not know how to respond to you when you're on a structure that they cannot run to. And that's one of the things that, well, gaming AI needs to come up with. So yeah, that's my early review of this. I will put a final thoughts video up at the end. I just felt that I needed to put out some of my opinions on the game. It's not a bad game, but it's not the best game by any means. It has a lot of work it needs to do. Hopefully we'll see that in the future. But it's definitely not the worst Ubisoft game I've played. I would say probably Assassin's Creed Origin is probably the worst Ubisoft game I've ever played in my life. That was bad. Really bad. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoy watching this. This is, well, going to come up to about 30 minutes in this of rambling. But really, the final point I want you to understand is play the game. Yeah, you may not agree with a lot of stuff, but some people actually like this type of stuff. And, well, the game is much different watching it than it is playing it. I will see you guys later when I give my final thoughts on this game and tell you how I like it. Later, guys.